Hello, this is for a training class regarding our co-teach teachers. Um, it's regarding Google Classroom and some more advanced features. I'm going to kind of talk real quick about our setup of this particular classroom. It's set up so that CALS can essentially track um, different um, outputs from our students. So what I have here is kind of the walkthrough. I have each of the subjects, English, math, science, and history, kind of outlined here. And this is where we can create our different assignments or announcements and that sort of thing. I think by now everyone is kind of aware of the basics of the Google Classroom. And so I'm going to try to take this one step further and see if we can't use it for another application. And then at the same time as demonstrating the other application, walking through the how we can use it to gain some additional data input from our students. Okay, so the very first thing that I want to kind of point out is this is what it looks like for the teachers whenever we put things into our Google Classroom, okay? But this isn't the same thing that a student might see, and that's what this video is to show. So the student view, I have another view right over here, and this is what the student sees right now. Even though I have on the left, I have English, math, science right here under the classwork tab. For the student, you don't see anything yet. Now that's because we don't have an assignment. So I'm going to kind of drop an assignment in and let's see what the student sees, okay? So we'll put an assignment in. We'll call this assignment I can sit without aid. And then instructions are how many times Okay, so we can just ask like a simple question on the assignment. We can add a document so that the student can essentially um, have something to write and turn in. One thing to kind of when in the assignment, we can assign it to the student view. Students can edit the file or make a copy for each student. My class only has one student in it currently for this demonstration, but normally you would have 20 to 30. I had one class with almost 40 kids in it. So you would want to make a copy for each student so that they can edit their own copy, okay? The grading category, in this case, we'll call it English. And then let me kind of talk about this right rail. You can assign it to all students or just a student. This is valuable. So pretend I need feedback from just one or two students. I can create that assignment, kind of a little brief assessment, and I can assign it directly to that particular student. They will get it and no one else will get it. No one else will see it. So I can scope these assignments directly to whom I want to see them. That's so valuable because we're trying to keep up with our FERPA things, and we want to make sure that all these students seem anonymous to one another and that their assignments are coming through genuine. And so this will allow us to help decipher between which students need those assessments. As a case manager, I have anywhere from 11 to 15 kids, and those are the ones I'm generally monitoring, and I need those assessments back. Sometimes Agiforia isn't going to allow me for the assessments I need. So this will kind of help take that one step further. We can put it on the kid and do a self-evaluation, or we can simply do our own observations. And it just depending on how you scope your assignment and your assessments will depict on how you set that up. I'll talk about that a little bit later. In this case, I'm going to have it to all students. I have the one student in my class. the due date. This is important because this is how we're going to essentially assign and communicate when this is due. It seems simple, but it's pretty valuable, especially if I'm going to forecast lessons. And what'll happen is, for example, if I needed a quiz that we can create in Google Classroom due by Friday so that they're done, what'll happen is the student will have an indicator pop up on their Google Calendar. And not only the student, but the parent will also have a calendar entry based off of this due date. So when we put the due date in, we want to make sure that it's obviously feasible, and that entry will go in, and we'll talk about how the parents can see the students' work in another video, most likely. The topic, this is to map it to the front page, for example, in that classroom location. And so a moment ago, you saw English, history, math, and science. This maps it. That's different from grade category. In that grade category, well, we're going to talk about this in another video, but it has to do with where my grades are going to be set up as. So I can actually figure out English grades on my particular setup. I could set up this for math grades. I could set it up for history. This is almost set up kind of like for an elementary student teachers, grades 1 through 5, so that one teacher could come in and use Google Classroom, and they could essentially put every assignment into it, and this will give an overall grade for each of those classes with the way I have it set up. But I'm using it in the aspect of a co-teacher collaborative, where a CAL would have all their case managers managing every child using only one Google Classroom. So in other words, there might be four co-teachers that are teachers in this Google Classroom, and that there's also maybe 90 to 150 students that they are managing. And so this is what this particular classroom is set up for. Okay, so I'm going to leave this category as English for now. And now what I'm going to do is we're going to schedule the assignment for right now, but I do want to kind of draw attention to the drop down where I can schedule the assignment. So for example, I can make this assignment become visible to my students in a future date by using the scheduler, okay? Or I can just simply save this assignment, and then I can manually schedule it whenever it comes time for the assignment. This is important, especially if you have a 3 or 4 day lesson and you have it scaffolded out inside of your classroom. And so whenever we get to the material, then I will go ahead and I will assign the material. But it allows me to go ahead and set up my entire classroom for, say, a week. And then as we come to those elements, we can go ahead and they're saved in here, and we can just launch them, and it'll keep the assignments tracked and chunked for our students, and so they're not overwhelmed. And then just scheduling it out, this would be more for, I used to use this for my daily check-ins or something like that sort. And so you can make a whole week of check-ins, and then the student they can't work ahead, obviously, but they would be able to, you could bracket essentially using this scheduler, an assignment to essentially pop up at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then come around down here and make it due at, around 5 o'clock that day. So you can book in those assignments, and that's how you do it in the Google Classroom. For now, I'm going to go ahead and assign it, and let's see what the student view looks like. Okay, so the Google Classroom is making that assignment, and then here we come over to the classroom for the student. Here is their stream. There's nothing coming up yet. It doesn't look like my assignment has attached just yet. This could be for another reason, a number of reasons. I may have sometimes this happens with videos, especially, and we'll talk about how we attach those videos here in a little bit. but sometimes when I'm streaming and we have things going on, my internet service seems to decline, and that kind of has an issue. So give me 1 second for this time. Okay, so now it's saved, and you can see that it comes up on my classroom view right here under English, just as expected. This is what it's going to look for us as teachers. It's going to show that it's not turned in but assigned. And so let's see what it looks like on the student view. Come over here to the student view, and as you can see, it only has English with an assignment. Whereas I do have the other topics chiseled out, it doesn't show those chiseled out for our students. So that's important to understand when we're communicating to our students, because we want to make sure we have an imagination that is looking like this view, and we think that it looks like that for them, but it doesn't. It looks like this for our students. So we have to be careful with our communication, and it's possible we may not have ever taken a look at what they see. Here's what it looks like for the student. It shows assigned. I click on the assignment. I'm going to act like this is Jimmy. This is a example, so I'll say, I did not stand up at all. Of course, every student's going to say that. Now up here in the turn in location, this is what we generally would say to our students: make sure you turn it in. So they turn it in, and then right now we think the student, as a student, they think they're finished. Well, this isn't the case, okay? What we have to make sure that happens, let's say I refresh this, and it shows that I turned it in, but notice it still says it's assigned here for the student. The other thing is on the other end where the teacher view is, if I were to refresh this, I'm going to look at it and it still says it's assigned. What's going on here is we need to actually coach our kids to make sure that they view the assignment and that they actually turn it in with this blue link. Now once I turn in the assignment as a student, I can now see where it's turned in. I could unsubmit, maybe I forgot something, I need to do some more work. This will kind of allow that to happen until that due date hits, okay? Now for the teacher point of view, you can see it's already updated. It shows it's turned in. I go to this turn in thing. I can view, usually you'll have a list of children right here, and you can go person by person, clicking through their assignment. Here we go. I can look at it. I did not stand up all. That's great, Jimmy. Okay, so I will grade you as a 100%. And this is just one of many locations that you can data entry your grade. I hit return, and it's returning to the student. That now they can see that they have credit for this particular assignment. Okay, so I can close that. Let's go see what happened on Jimmy's end. Okay, so now Jimmy's been graded. It says that he has a 100 out of 100. Okay, so this has great communication for our students. It shows that it's been graded. You can view the assignment. It'll show the assignment grade right there in the classroom. So that's pretty awesome. You can actually go in and view your work in this for children that want to view what they've done. You can see a nice list of every assignment in the student view, and you'll see each of these categories. There's a lot of different things the students can do to see what it is that they've missed or gotten correct. And the student feedback is probably one of the most important things that I think that teachers should be doing, because that's really where our students are going to learn from. So understanding how they're going to be receiving the feedback and understanding how they see that feedback is kind of what the premise of this first video is. Okay, so also on the teacher side, so as you can see, we have this nice output we're all very used to seeing. Right quick, it shows people. This is the number of folks that are inside of this school, and you can also you're allowed to invite other students or parents at this level right here. I don't have it activated right now, but normally you would be able to have a place where you can invite parents, okay? Also the grades, We're going to go through a more advanced grading, but right now I have settings in place to show the overall grade and just currently what that one graded element is. So this is just kind of my basic overview. Stay tuned and we'll dive deeper into other subject matters in our next video. Thank you.